Prime Minister Mark Carney has called 3 federal by-elections as his government looks to strengthen its position in Parliament. Add to the mix a floor crosser from the NDP to the Liberals last night, leaving them just 2 seats shy of a majority. 2 of the ridings are considered safe Liberal seats, but the spotlight is on Terrebonne, where the Supreme Court of Canada ordered a new vote after a razor-thin 1-vote victory for the Liberals was challenged by the Bloc Québécois, and errors by Elections Canada on mail-in ballots were confirmed. The end results could be Carney's long-sought majority, albeit thin majority, or a long-time safe Liberal seat could suddenly swing in another direction. And that is really very, very possible, but highly unlikely in those 2 Toronto area ridings. First of all, Eddie, were you surprised by the NDP crossing over last night?
You know what? Typically when you, of late, especially when you typically hear of crossovers, it's usually the 2 main parties where you'll have members crossing the floor. I've not in a long time heard about somebody from the NDP crossing it. That just could be by memory. But in this particular case, I was actually quite surprised, because I believe this particular parliamentarian not too long ago said something about the fact she wasn't considering moving across the floor, and then here we are. Lo and behold, she did cross the floor. So yeah, I am somewhat surprised by this one.
She actually, in an interview with, I think it was CTV, about a month and a half ago or so, did say, yes, no, I'm not considering it at this time.
Right.
And that was kind of slipped in there, as just the added feature at this time.
Right.
Her name had been circulating on more than one occasion as probably for sure a switcher, and from Nunavut, and she had her in the federal vote back last April. She won, but it wasn't a huge landslide by any stretch of the imagination. So now it's going to be one of those situations as to how does how do her constituents really feel about it. Anyway, no surprise here, but the Prime Minister was quite happy this morning as he was on his way into a caucus meeting.
It is a great pleasure. One of Canada's greatest constituency MPs. You represent a riding that is the size of Mexico, and very down to earth. And we've had conversations about what we can do, both large and small, in Nunavut. Large projects, but also helping everyone get ahead. So all for Canada, Canada for all.
Like with any complicated issue, it wasn't just one thing that happened. There are a variety of many things that have allowed me to really reflect on this, and I'm very thankful to be so warmly welcomed.
Away they went to a cheering caucus just down the hall, and now here we are. He's 2 seats shy of a majority, 2 safe Liberal seats in the by-election. However, the NDP, the interim NDP leader, was not overly impressed with this maneuver, and had a few choice words to say today.
The position of the New Democratic Party on floor crossing is long-standing and clear. To us, the decision of voters at the ballot box is a sacred trust. And if a member of Parliament wants to override that decision, we believe they must go back to the voters and make that case to them and receive a renewed mandate. Well, I'm becoming increasingly concerned by the way that Mr. Carney is trying to stitch together a majority government in this country. Once again, to us, whether or not there's a majority government is fundamentally a decision of the Canadian people at the ballot box. And it should happen that way, not through backroom deals cut behind closed doors in Ottawa.
And my apologies, I've neglected to mention at the beginning that Christian is joining us again this evening, still here in Montreal, and so he's jumping on board and going to weigh in with his commentary and thoughts as to the various issues we're discussing. So there we have it. The interim NDP leader. As a matter of fact, apparently voting has opened for a new leader for the NDP, and there's a number of candidates in the offing, and a couple of them are unique in their approach. Let's put it that way. From what I saw in watching a few minutes of one of the leadership debates. So. The favorite is a sitting NDP member right now, and we'll see how that all turns out. But anyhow, Don Davis, the interim leader, really not happy. And he does make a good point. We've had this discussion before, Eddie.
Yes, we have.
And I have not changed my mind on it at all. As much as I hate the cost of a by-election, when I cast a ballot for somebody and I put my X next to their name and the party they're representing, that's who I voted for. And have somebody, well, it's almost a year later in her case, but the signals were coming that that she would probably at some point end up crossing the floor. So it took longer for her to come to that decision, I guess, or to be at peace with herself before she made the announcement. But anyway, that's where it sits. The floor crossing thing really, I'm against it. Like it's just, it's like I threw my vote out the window, or I didn't show up to vote at all.
So I don't blame the interim leader of the NDP for his choice words. I tend to agree with him. And you know what? By the same token, even Pierre Poilievre, in terms of the crossings from his party over to the Liberal Party, I equally agree with his concern that all of a sudden, people who voted Conservative and the local MP, all of a sudden crossing the floor, which may or may not represent your voter intention. So I'm not for them. What we once said, you and I, hopefully somebody's going to have the cojones to whoever's in charge to actually get a law passed in Canada, that if there is a floor crosser, it does go to by-election. I think that would be my preference. So I completely understand the leaders of the two opposition parties, the other parties in Canada, about their concern about floor crossers and what that does in terms of damaging, like you're saying, voter intention for who they actually wanted to represent them. Not a good deal. But I can understand what Carney's trying to accomplish per se.
Christian, does this happen much in European parliaments?
No, I think in the 90s more when we had issues in Spain, but in that regards, not that I could tell for the time being, nothing seemed like this.
Okay, so we have one more NDP coming over. Of course, the NDP lost official party status when they only picked up 7 seats last April, so they've lost official party status as well in the House of Commons, and now they're from 7 down to 6. And that reminds me, let's just have a look at some numbers here. So we have the Liberals with 170 seats, the Conservatives with 141. The New Democrats now with 6, and of course the Liberals had 169 until last night. So the Green Party won 3 vacant seats, total of 343 seats, and the majority, the magic number is 172. Now, we're going into by-elections about a month and 2 days from today.
April 13th.
So let's have a look at the ridings. In the Toronto area, we have University Rosedale and Scarborough Southwest. Of course, University Rosedale was held by Chrystia Freeland for a number of years, and she was high-profile cabinet minister and deputy prime minister at one point during the Trudeau years, and she has moved on. But it is a high-profile Toronto area riding and considered a safe Liberal seat, almost as safe as if none of the Liberals showed up, they'd still win. In Scarborough Southwest, again in the Toronto area, it's considered another safe seat, Liberal stronghold, vacated with the resignation of former cabinet minister, at least in the Trudeau government, Bill Blair, who was appointed Canada's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom recently. So he resigned and moved off to the United Kingdom and opened up that seat. Those are the two, and like, unless there's, I don't know, a major uproar that none of us are aware of, those two seats are going red once again.
Yeah.
You know, it's just in their blood, kind of thing. Okay, so then let's go to Terrebonne. Let me get back down here. Get rid of that, bring that up.
Beautiful
Okay.
Terrebonne, Quebec.
Yeah, Montreal area, and you know what? This is going to be the riding to watch in the by-election. Rematch of the most contested seat in the 2025 general election. The Supreme Court of Canada annulled the previous result last month after the original election ended with a one-vote margin. The Liberal won the seat, which had been a traditional Bloc Québécois stronghold. Anyway, pulled it off with a one-vote win. However, when they went to court and they went down through everything, they discovered a printing error that led to at least one mail-in ballot for the Bloc Québécois never being counted. One. Who says your vote doesn't count?
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court ruled that because that one vote wasn't counted, and because there was an error in the address on the envelope, it said that's enough to question whether there were other errors in the same fashion, and that votes that were mailed in or attempted to be mailed in were not counted. So they said, that's it, boom. The results tossed out, and you're going back to the polls. And from what I can see, it's going to be pretty much the same candidates running this time around as ran in last April.
Right.
So that's going to be a nail biter. Now, here's the thing. The Liberals have picked up a bit of support. I was looking at some polling today, and the Liberals have picked up a little bit of made up some ground here in Quebec as far as picking up support. And Carney in particular has gained some more support as favored prime minister. So, and that's all sort of come together after his speech in Switzerland last month.
Mm-hmm.
And so there could be enough of momentum building for the Liberals here in Quebec, and especially that will reflect in the outcome in Terrebonne in next month, maybe. Now, I'm not totally in tune yet with the Quebec politics, getting there, but still Quebec reminds me a lot of BC from a political standpoint. There's always a flashpoint or some kind of surprise. Nothing ever just kind of goes the way it does in a lot of other areas of the country as far as, well, I've always voted Liberal, my family always voted Liberal, or my family always voted Conservative or whatever. There's more, I don't know, openness or free thinking both in BC from an electoral standpoint, although they do favor the NDP, and here in Quebec. Eddie, do you have any thoughts or feedback on that?
No, not really. I mean, one comment I'll make right off the bat, like you're mentioning about the voters out in BC, which are very, they have no problem jumping back and forth between blue, orange, or red. I think you can look at a similar situation here in Quebec because Quebec has been Bloc Québécois, obviously. It has also been liberal in recent memory. And remember, Jack Layton, during the Jack Layton days, I mean, there was a huge wave of orange throughout the province at the behest of the Liberal Party and the Bloc Québécois. So, you know what, Gary? I think this one is going to be something to watch out for very, very closely. I have a feeling, just by looking at the characteristics of Quebecers, they're pretty smart people. Okay, at the end of the day, and you know what? Although the Bloc Québécois has had a hold on the province of Quebec during federal elections, um, they will be swayed by strong sense of leadership. As long as that's conveyed and displayed from a strong leadership perspective, Quebecers can get their meat hooks into that and decide, you know what? Quebec has been doing okay. The country seems to be doing okay. And I like the candidate leading the Liberal Party and what he's done for the world and what he's trying to do for Canada. So that entire aura around Carney right now, especially Davos moving forward, it's not uncommon to actually hear discussions from francophones about what Mr. Carney has done in the last year. So we got to keep the ear to the ground on this one, Gary. This might go down to the wire, but I have a sneaky suspicion that the Reds are actually going to cross the finish line first on this one because of Mark Carney's leadership.
And I think you're right. I think, as I say, overall, looking at the polling, the Liberals have picked up a bit of support, and a couple of the pollsters are saying that it reflects back to that speech that Carney gave, which a lot of people around the world are still reflecting upon the speech, and his stock went up about 20 or 30% after that speech around the world.
No, like it was very well received in Europe as well, all across Europe, in Switzerland, Austria, Germany. All the newspapers were praising Carney like one of the best speeches in a long, long time. Very diplomatic, but very outspoken. He knows to choose his words wisely.
Yeah.
Now, there has been a bit of criticism, especially here at home and from the opposition. And I should mention, too, that Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's reaction to Laurie Eidelot crossing the floor to the Liberals, and I neglected to mention her name earlier, I realized after the fact, was the same as when he lost a couple of Conservative MPs, and that is, Carney's doing all kinds of backroom deals to get a majority instead of earning it at the ballot box. That essentially is the Coles Note version of Poilievre's reaction to it. And here's the other thing. There's still rumblings in watching and listening to some of the pundits in Ottawa. They're still suggesting that there may be a few more, and especially a couple of more from the Conservative side. I heard one the other day mention that there are a couple of women in the caucus, Conservative caucus, who are fed up with the kind of bro mentality in the caucus. And they're apparently giving very serious consideration to taking the walk across the floor.
Well, that's what gets me. I mean, Gary, the Conservative Party and Pierre Poilievre just came off a leadership review
Yep.
in January, I think it was late January. And you know what? Yet we continue to hear rumors about two or three Conservative MPs thinking about crossing the floor. I appreciate uh, Pierre Poilievre's concern about backroom deals and whatnot, and liberals recruiting people from the NDP and his own conservative party. I you know I think the bigger question Mr. Poilievre should be asking him is he's lucky to have the job he has right now, that he actually got voted in again. I mean, when you have this many ministers, A, that crossed, B, planning to cross, and every time you heard a rumor about a conservative MP thinking about crossing the floor, inevitably they do that. And Pierre Poilievre, I don't think he's necessarily realizing that there is a fundamental reason as to why these people that got voted into the Conservative Party are moving across the floor to the Liberals. I mean, they're called liberals today. I'll call them liberal 2.0. They're completely different from what we had been exposed to for the 10 years or so under the Trudeau Liberals. It's a completely different party. There has to be something that's attracting these individuals to move over across the floor. And I'm hopeful that they're doing so because they believe what they're doing is for the benefit of Canada and supporting programs that the Liberal Party of Canada, Liberal 2.0, are proposing in terms of getting Canada through this very, very difficult time in the country. And at the end of the day, it comes down to leadership credibility. And it behooves Mr. Poilievre to take a look at what's the root cause of these people leaving. And look, again, I agree with him. I would be pissed if individuals are leaving my caucus to go across the floor to the Liberal Party. But then, by the same token, he's got to realize he has a very, very important position in this Canadian government as opposition leader, and he's got to show confidence and leadership not just to his party, but confidence and leadership to the rest of the country, coast to coast, that he will do a good job as opposition leader. And I'm not even sure he's doing a capable job of that as we speak right now. It's just this feeling I get every time I hear him speak off to camera, microphone, or on the floor during question period from the exposure that I've had so far. It's I get a lot of the same old during the sparring sessions between Trudeau and Poilievre cropping up now and then on the floor. A lot of talk without substance, and then at the same point, by the same token, if somebody crossed from the Liberal Party over the floor to the Conservative Party, is Poilievre also going to say, "Well, you know what? This is not fair and whatnot"? Of course not. So either there should be a push to change the laws, the voting laws in terms of floor crossers, as we expressed earlier in this segment, Gary, or stop talking about it. Look at what the issue is and why are MPs from the Conservative caucus and the NDP crossing the floor. I think Mr. Poilievre has got to do some personal reflection here. Otherwise, it's Gary. I think you're probably going to be right. Another two or three are going to cross the floor in the next couple of months.